promptly here on The Key Point. But tonight, a private legal practitioner and political scientist, Professor Michael Quay, says it is illegal for the Electoral Commission to introduce new charges of errors on the nomination forms of presidential hopefuls after the Supreme Court's ruling. He charged the National Peace Council to intervene in the case to ensure that the electoral roll or the timetable is adhered to.
When you give reasons for any such act, disqualification or punishment or whatever, the court will look at the case within the parameters of those reasons given. That has been examined, that has been adjudicated upon, so the matter has been brought to closure. You cannot go and bring some other things, otherwise you'll be guilty of gallivanting. In fact, it is illegal because you are looking at specified reasons for disqualification. Those persons affected can and should take legal action because this is illegal. You don't need to go too far. My brother, as at now, NPP is supposed to have qualified. NDC has qualified, supposed to have qualified. Can they go and tell MPP tomorrow or NDC tomorrow or CPP for that matter that, oh, we have looked at your papers again, we have found a certain fault, therefore we are asking you, we are disqualifying you? Can you? This is exactly what I'm saying. Otherwise, you see, it will give you unlimited room for arbitrariness, which is the fundamental thing against the rule of law. In fact, the rule of law means the absence of arbitrariness in determining or disposing of the rights of others. You must bring finality to such matters. And the way to do so is for you to be made to stick to the original charges that you leveled against those people. Public duty must be performed with formalistic impersonality. In other words, it must be done formally. It must be done impersonally. When you behave like this, as a referee, you put the game in danger. And that is something that I'll ask the Peace Council and others to take very serious, because somebody is leading this country to the ditch. And I mean what I'm saying. And that person must be told that is not how you perform a public function, both legally and by private advice in chambers. Which is just a month to go. All political parties should have had both soft copy and hard copy. The NPP is saying they only had soft copy. The hard copy that they have been entitled to, which is done at every election, was not given. And the soft copy, too, when opened, was found to have faults in them. This is definitely not good enough. I think the complaints are just one too many. And the EC must sit up and perform.
All right, so let's stay with this just a bit further. Martin Pebo is a private legal practitioner and also a law lecturer at the Central University Faculty of Law. It's good to have a good evening to you. Now, having to observe these developments with the new errors, and the racing against time that the political parties have had to deal with. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
Well, I must indicate that it was quite intriguing, to say the least. It was quite another bad step in the EC's efforts to resolve this dispute. It just didn't bode well because, it beats a lot of us, our imagination, how the EC could have moved from 2 or 3 errors, on average per candidate, to the list being 95, then 105 for another person, and then 303.
As we go on, I'm going to run through the errors identified by the EC, so we get the details of that. But clearly, you say that that was rather a cause for worry. Some of them have indicated that they will resort to the court of law to battle it out with the EC if they don't make it through. What kind of reliefs can they seek in the court of law in an instance like this?
Definitely, the first would be that the Supreme Court should give them more time to be able to comply with the requirements of the EC, because we are informed that before the court set this this extension, the court was informed about the number of errors that were at stake. If the Supreme Court had known that there were 105, 95, and then 303, it probably would have set a different time. So if any candidate wants to go back, I mean, certainly it will be to ask for more time. But I think that to the extent that the EC has accepted forms from a lot of those candidates, and also the intervention of the Peace Council, CDD, and some of us, you know, on various platforms, the way we had pointed out to the EC forcefully that it was headed in the wrong direction, I should think that we would wait. Let's have a positive outlook. Let's hope that the EC gets it right. And indeed, to the extent that so far we haven't heard that the issues of criminality were used to prevent some candidates from substituting the subscribers, it would appear that the EC is on the right path now. So to the extent that the EC is currently accepting, as at the last time they were accepting their forms, it's like the EC is going into labor. So let's look at it positively that we'll get a good delivery. And that will be tomorrow. But
you know, the bit about criminality, you obviously would have to prove beyond reasonable doubt.
That's correct.
There actually was a reason or a mens rea to commit some criminal act. But that is still under investigation as far as we know, because that was referred to the police service and the Attorney General to deal with. But then the PPP's council had indicated that they were going to deal with only the ASIDA error and not just the 105 that was identified by the EC. If they decide to go by that particular error and correct just that error and ignore what the EC had found out, and the EC decides to use it against them because they hadn't corrected those errors, would they have enough grounds to pursue a further legal action?
You know, a lot of legal issues usually have more than one dimension to it. On the face of it, they would, because, you know, you see, in administrative justice, okay, the EC first communicated a certain number of errors. So it was based upon it that these candidates went to have those errors corrected. But for the EC to have gone back by itself and reviewed the forms and come up with more errors, it certainly wasn't good for administrative justice. Article 23 of the Constitution requires that administrative bodies act with fairness. It should be fair. And Article 296 is also to the same extent that when you have a discretion, act with fairness, be candid. How did they look at the forms the first time and arrived at 2 errors or 3 errors at most, and then subsequently went back by themselves? That's not how we should handle public office. But as I've said, to the extent that the EC is currently accepting the forms, let's look at the positive side. Let's encourage them. I'm sure since a lot of voices of dissent have spoken, including the Peace Council, CDD, and commentators, including us, I should think we will get it right.
Well, Martin, people is going to stay with me just a bit. I'm going to go for this quick break. But the information we're getting from the EC headquarters is that some 8 political parties' presidential candidates' forms have been accepted by the EC chair, who is a returning officer for the presidential elections. By close of day tomorrow, we'll get to know the decision by the Electoral Commission on this.